Kelly, and this is part of a series of videos on recovery and spirituality. So today I'm going to tell you just a little bit about who I am, and then we're going to jump right into today's subject, which is prayer. I have worked as a pastor and a social worker. I'm a hiker, an artist, a spouse, a pet parent to a dog and a cat, a tree admirer, and a lover of all of God's creation. I'm also in recovery from addiction. Now, behind me, you can see some of my art. I like to share my art, so it's just there as a visual. So this video is going to seek to answer the question, why pray? And then it will be followed by a video, or possibly more than one video, exploring the question of how to pray. So why pray? Well, I think it's important when we talk about prayer and why we pray to remember that God, or your higher power, I call God, but you're welcome to think of that in different terms. God always makes the first move. God does this by extending or offering us grace from the time of our first experience of existence. Prayer is part of our response to God's invitation to us. This invitation is an invitation to be in relationship, and hopefully right relationship, with God, as well as with others, yourself, and all of God's beloved creations. And I bring up all of God's beloved creations because God is a creator who creates out of love. So God cares for the world that God has made. And we see in the Bible, in John chapter 3, verse 16, for God so loved the world. So the next question I want to talk about with prayer is prayer for God's benefit, or for the world's, or for your own? So first I want to say God doesn't need your prayers any more than a parent needs to hear "I love you" from their child. Now, it may not be necessary, but that doesn't mean they don't appreciate it or find joy and gratitude in it. God delights in time spent with you because God created you in order to love you. So I think it can easily be said that prayer, yes, is for the world's benefit. The things we do and say in the world have a ripple effect. And I believe that our prayers also have a ripple effect out into the world. And I kind of experienced this on a gut level a little over a year and a half ago, somewhere in there. I had a medical emergency. I had had a surgery, and there were problems. I had a very bad infection. And the medical team was over and over and over again trying new antibiotics, new combinations. How about these two together? How about those two together? To try to knock this infection. And it wasn't going away. And so they couldn't send me home, and it was very difficult. And there were certainly times where I felt like my life was in danger, where really it could go either way, life or death. And at that time, I knew that my family was praying for me. The church I was serving as a children and youth pastor was praying for me. Friends were praying for me. There were people who I didn't even know who were praying for me because family, friends, co-workers, congregants had asked them to pray for me. And at that time, I felt like those prayers were surrounding me. I felt them. I felt protected. I felt loved. I felt cared for. But by protected, I want to say that it gave me hope, and I could feel the love and protection, and that the prayers of many people were holding me up. But what that meant was that I was going to be okay either way, either in life or in death. The you can't always determine in what way or manner or when God will respond to a prayer. But we know that God is watching over us as well as over a complicated world. There is death and pain as long as we are in this world. So we can't expect God to take away all of our troubles. That was never the promise. The promise is that God will be with us. God's presence with us is what God has promised us in this life and in the next. And in the next, we are promised a good life. But in this life, there will be trials and tribulations for all of us. Many people find that prayer is beneficial for their own mental and emotional well-being, as well as their spiritual well-being. Much like meditation, when you pray, you're entering an alternate way of thinking. Now, sometimes people wonder what's the difference between prayer and meditation, and there's a lot of ways you could answer that. But the simple answer I like to give is that in meditation, we seek to come into deeper contact with our own selves. And in prayer, we seek to come into deeper contact with our higher power. So, both are useful, but they're not exactly the same thing, and they can't be used interchangeably. So, if your prayers are only about you or your needs, then it might be a good idea to try to get outside of yourself. When you look at a lot of the things that we're told to do in 12-step programs, if you happen to participate in 12-step programs, a lot of them are about getting outside of yourself, right? So recognizing a power higher than yourself, doing service work, caring for the community. These are all things that get us outside of ourself. And that's actually very helpful to us. It's helpful to all people to get outside of ourselves and sort of shift our perspective for a while. But I think that it's true to say that many people, including many addicts, have a tendency towards self-centeredness or self-obsession. And one of the ways to combat that is getting outside of ourselves. And that's true with prayer as well. We don't want our prayers to simply be self-centered and self-serving. So it would enrich your prayer life to expand out to others. So I encourage you to try that. We're going to talk a little more in the next video about how to pray. And I appreciate you being here with me and listening today. And if you have any topics or questions, comments, you're welcome to put them in the comment section or shoot me a quick message if you're on Facebook. Thanks so much. God bless and have a wonderful day.